This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Ben Settle, super practical.
I'm not telling people to have a mistress. I'm teaching you, learn the lesson from the people who have a mistress, because there's many business lessons that apply.
Pious.
There's a part in the book of Revelation where Jesus says, I want you either hot or cold. I'm spewing lukewarm churches out. And I think it's a good way to look at your list.
Romantic to his very core.
Once in a while, I'll give my girl a present, like a Snickers bar or something.
And totes tender.
If someone asks you to walk on eggshells, smash the eggshells and let the chips fall wherever they may.
Adored by feminists everywhere.
It takes a strong woman to admit when she's wrong.
Not a judgmental bone in his entire body.
I look at all the free information people give just on Facebook and I go, what a bunch of time hose.
Has a PhD in armchair philosophy.
In the land of dumbasses, the smartass is king.
You'll never meet a more sensitive guy.
If you really care about people, you shame the hell out of them. This is Ben Settle of the bensettle.com podcast. And last week I picked on coaches a little bit. It wasn't the point of the podcast, of course, but it just kind of turned out that way. And this time I'm going to pick on freelance copywriters. Is that all right with you, Jonathan? Because I didn't mean to wound your ego last time. I'm
butthurt.
I feel bad about it. Actually, I'm not going to pick on freelancers. I'm actually going to show freelance copywriters how to make a lot more money without getting necessarily any more training, without needing a coach. All right. Going back, you won't need a coach. In fact, I wonder how many coaches would even give the advice I'm going to give here. So I guess in a way, I would be the virtual coach of
there he is.
Someone. And I'm not even charging them extra for this, Jonathan. I think some gratitude is in line here. I don't want to hear any back talk from anybody on this. Okay, this is free advice, which means it probably won't be valued or taken. But whatever. So to start things off, now, Jonathan, I don't know if you have listened to the course I'm about to say or not. I believe it was the first podcast of 2018 where I went through. Here's the stuff I'm listening to on my iPod right now.
Okay,
you remember that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you've listened to this one or not, but I'm about 5. I like to go through things 10 times, and I'm on my 5th time through Dan Kennedy's 7-Figure Academy product. And I'm guessing you haven't gone through that yet.
No. Is that on? Is that a shit? Now I'm being a dork. But is that is that available on his site, or is it on Audible or something like that?
It's on at gkic.com. It's one of their products.
I'm there.
Now, by the way, at the time of this recording, as of a couple months ago, GKIC was finally bought by someone competent, it sounds like. And so I think we'll see a lot better stuff coming out from I don't know, man. It was, I don't want to say anything bad about like how it was being run, but it sounded like a shit show to me, just from what people were telling me. And including one of your podcasters could probably go into.
I know exactly who.
So I just leave it at that because, from what I understand, the new guy who took over is actually a hardcore Dan Kennedy like student. So it's going to be
disciple.
Well, I think it's going to be much better. But here's the point. There's something he said during this product that any copywriter, it's very common sense, but it's also something people don't really understand. And he basically, and this is an offhand comment. It's not like I'm giving some proprietary information away or anything like that. It's just like an offhand thing he said. I don't believe it was like part of the curriculum he was teaching or anything. And he said that he's the highest paid copywriter in the world, which I believe. I believe he's the highest paid copywriter. He says it's not because he's the most talented though, or any of the usual reasons people think the highest paid copywriter would be. He says it's simply because he's the fastest copywriter in the world. He can write copy much faster than anyone else. Thus, he can take on more assignments, and I'm sure he has like contingencies. I'm just guessing he gets like royalties and stuff. So he does more per year, and he's got all this stuff, income constantly building up and compounding on itself, and so he gets paid the most. And that was basically what he said, that because he's the fastest copywriter, he gets paid the most. And this, again, it was like an offhand thing he just kind of said, and it was like, I'm not a freelancer, but if I was, I would totally take that to heart and say, okay, how can I make myself a faster copywriter? And if you think this is just limited to Mr. Kennedy, this also applies to other types of writing. So, for example, the great Stan Lee, the 95-year-old, I believe he's 95 years old now, creator of Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk and the Avengers and all those characters everyone's, Iron Man, Daredevil, all the characters, the X-Men that people have come, at least the original incarnation of X-Men, that people know about and all this, billions and billions of dollars, if you think about it, in combined sales have come out of this guy's brain, him and the people he worked with, the artists he worked with. He had the same thing when he was just starting. Well, he'd been in the business for like 20 years, but when Marvel kind of started getting their act together and creating superhero comics that became popular, that was the position he was in. Because in his biography, he talks about, the more scripts I wrote, the more money I got paid. And because he was friends with all the artists, he wanted to make sure those artists always had work to do because they had families and expenses, and he wanted to take care of his friends. So he felt like he had to keep writing scripts. And it got to the point where he'd be outside on weekends at the pool at his own house at a standing desk, constantly banging out scripts. He just wrote really fast. One of the things he did was he came up with the Marvel way of writing comic books. And that's when he would just write a plot and then give it to the artist, and the artist would actually tell the actual story with pictures, then hand it back to him, and then he would script it, which let him I guess it let him write like 3 or 4 times more scripts than he normally be able to. It also ran into it also got him in trouble with certain artists like Jack Kirby, apparently, because a lot of those artists were actually probably more responsible for the strips getting created, because he would just say, okay, this is the way I heard it, at least. Don't take this with a grain of salt. But the way I heard it, in some of these cases, he would just have a really 5-minute conversation with the artist and say, this is what I want to happen. And then just send the artist on his merry way to write it out and storyboard it out.
No
and the artist
kidding.
the artist did a lot of the work actually when it came to that. And so it is, but that's how they did it. And again, billions of dollars. And if you take the comic book sales, you take the movies that have come from these characters, the TV shows that have come from these characters, the licensing deals, the toys, all this stuff, Disney's buying Marvel and all this stuff. We're talking billions and billions of dollars coming from this guy's brain, basically. And it's because he wrote fast and he was put in that position. The more he did, the more he got paid, and he created all this stuff. And, Dan Kennedy did the same thing. And the moral of the story is here, if you're a freelancer and you want to make more money, then start writing faster copy. Now, here's where I'm going to plug, Jonathan, because I can.
Yes.
Because I can, I am going to plug my Copy Slacker product, because that's basically what it teaches you how to do.
Boom.
It's in the title. It's I'm not going to teach you how to be like an A-list copy or anything, but I can show you how to write copy really quick, because it's just a 5-step system that I can't even say I invented it. I just learned it by observation, and I've done it. And there was a time when it used to take me months to write, or at least weeks to write a sales letter. Now I can pound them out in a few days. It's not, and sometimes it's a couple days. It takes me longer to edit them than to write, because I have this process where I read them out loud 10 times, the sales letter, before I run it. That takes me longer to do than to actually just write the sales letter. It's just no big deal. So that begs the question, Jonathan, how does one get fast at writing? Now, I know this is going to sound this is going to be a light bulb moment. This is going to be one of those things where people couldn't possibly fathom this. How, Ben, you were I'm going to be called a genius after this. Okay. I'm literally going to get emails saying you are a genius, Ben. And Ben, please let me donate money to your fund. I'll say, I don't have a fund. Well, let me donate. Let's create a fund. Okay. Let's create the Ben Settle Genius Fund. Okay. And that is to get fast at writing, you just write a lot. Ta-da. The more you write, the faster
you needed a drum roll, really.
Well, speaking of comic book writers, so there's another comic book writer. His name's Neil Gaiman. And he did the Sandman series, which was a very popular series back in the day. There was this interview he gave to a magazine many years ago. And I remember to this day, even though I read it over 20 years ago, when he just got started in comic books. And I think I even told this story on one of the podcasts, but whatever. A little repetition isn't going to hurt anybody here, okay? He said he got into his high school guidance counselor asked him, what do you want to be? He said, well, I want to write American comic books. He lived in England, I believe. And, the guy just kind of rolled his eyes like, what the hell are you talking about? So as soon as he graduated high school, he said he got on the phone, called, and by the end of the day, he had sold 2 stories to some newspapers or magazines or something, unwritten, but he sold the stories. And he said it was really good. It forced him to write really fast because he had to now write these articles that he sold. And he said nothing will do a new writer better than have to write a couple 100,000 words under intense deadline pressure. And I agree with that completely. I can tell you this, Jonathan. I may have told you this story, may not have. I don't remember. This is what number 87 of this podcast. We did 37 other episodes of the old podcast. This is a lot of podcasting. Okay. I may be repeating myself in some ways, but that's okay.
You don't say.
Well, I'll tell you what. Okay. So the week between Christmas and New Year's of 2010 was my aha moment. This is my version of Bruce Banner becoming the Hulk. Okay. So to speak. This was the turning point for me. I was really sick of doing client work. I mean, I really hated it. Even though I had like this really lucrative deal going on where I got paid based on the company's overall sales and all that, I realized that those were all great people, but I still hated having authority over me and all this. So I said, okay, that's it. By the end of 2011, I want to be completely out of client work and just selling my own stuff. That was my goal. And that week, I put a business plan together, last week of 2010. And the idea I had was to get in the prostate niche, and I created an ebook, and I had this business partner in the weight loss niche who showed me how he was able to create like a $70,000 a year income, literally doing nothing for like 3 years straight, just playing with this kid all day, because he wrote all these e-zine articles and did it in a very specific SEO optimized way. And we're talking 300-word articles, 200, nothing big. You couldn't do it now because all the article sites make you have like 500-word articles now or whatever. And Google doesn't like articles the way it used to. But it was a sound plan. I said, and this guy had no back end, no affiliates, nothing like that. And I thought, well, shoot, if he could do 70 grand doing nothing, I could just blow this up into as big as I want. So I applied it to the prostate niche, and I did what he told me to do, which is, I don't know, for like a month and a half, I did nothing but write for like 15, 16, 17 hours a day. Between that stuff, my bensettle.com stuff, and the client stuff I was doing on retainer, I was doing a lot of writing. I didn't sleep much, if at all. Some nights I remember going through like a daze. Like I was like in one of those weird dazes every day. I just like walk through the day. I can't even remember half of it. It was like hallucinating or something. It was really weird. And needless to say, I did this for a month and a half. I wrote the equivalent of probably 3 or 4 novels worth of like text. And I was exhausted. And I said, okay, that's it. A month and a half in, I said, I'm taking a vacation. I took a road trip to visit my dad. And I started seeing results come in from that prostate ebook and all that. And then one day, and I was starting to make because all I needed was like 5 sales a day of that ebook, and I could just not need to do client work. I was getting like 3 sales a day. I was like, oh, cool, I'm almost there. Pretty soon I can actually get out of it. Plus I had my I had this old newsletter, the crypto marketing newsletter I was selling and all. So I could have easily just gone on my own after that. It had panned out. But what happened is halfway through my vacation, I wake up to find out that Google slapped article directories, which is where all my traffic was coming from. And I went from, making 3, 4, 5 sales a day to 0. The stuff that I had ranked on page 1 was on like page 20. and nice. So I was like, all that work for nothing. But then something interesting happened, Jonathan. I come back from vacation. I have to start writing more stuff for my client, my own stuff. I'm like, holy crap, writing's easy. It's like, when you go from writing the equivalent of 100 pages of maybe 50 to 100 pages of stuff a day to like writing 1 email a day and then maybe like another email and that's it. It's like easy. Everything just got really easy. And I realized how fast I was at writing. I probably tripled my writing speed because of all that out of necessity. And it all happened from just writing. And that's the point of that story is that writing will make you faster. Had I stayed with freelancing, I could have easily done what Dan Kennedy's talked about. And I could be pumping out more and more sales letters, taking on more clients, and would have been making more money. So if you're a freelance copywriter, start writing. And the best way to do that is to start writing. And then here's where my bias kicks in again, Jonathan, is daily emails. Writing daily emails every day for your own stuff, for your own business, for your own products. The more the merrier, but just even 1 a day will make you a faster and better writer. I guarantee it. Jonathan, you're living proof of this, are you not?
Bro,
when you started doing
today, I had a 10-minute workday just writing 1 email. So it works. And
there was probably a time pre-December 2000 or whenever you got in, I think 2011 sometime. There was a time before that where it was probably way longer. It took you longer and it was slower and all that. I'm guessing.
Hour and 15 painful minutes at least it used to take me when I first met you.
Now can you imagine a freelance copywriter fresh off the turnip truck, brand new? I was never given this.
Right at the coach's office.
I'm putting my coaching hat on now. I never had this. Now, maybe I should have hired a coach to tell me this. I don't know. In the very beginning, but nobody's ever taught. It's literally just heard this from Dan Kennedy 16 years into my business career, like it just dawned on me that the faster the writer you are, the more you're going to make, and which is common sense when you think about it. It's obvious atoms, basically. But anyone, people listening to this, I'm telling you, this could be if you're a freelance copywriter, and even if you're not, you just know that writing more emails, writing more content is going to make you more money. Here's what you do. You just write every day, and it'll get faster. It'll get easier. And there's no book. There's no checklist for this. There's no coaching program for this. Sorry. You just get up, you sack up, and you write every day. And the more you do it, and the under more intense deadlines you do it, the more you're going to make, the faster it gets, the easier it gets, and the smoother it gets. So all that said, that's my lesson. That's my coaching lesson for the week. Next week, Jonathan, I'm going to talk about the late, great Earl Nightingale. And you and I are very big. I know you're a big fan of his too.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the best, most profitable lessons I've learned from him, and how to apply it to the kind of stuff all of us that are listening to this do this, and direct marketing and that sort of thing. So that'll be next week.
Boom, boom, pow. Another bensettle.com podcast is in the can. We'll be back next week.
You've been listening to the bensettle.com podcast. To download yourself a free issue of Ben's prestigious $97 per month email players newsletter, which is going to show you 24 ways to write emails people eagerly read, click, and buy from, head on over to www.bensettle.com. Off you go. You know it makes sense.
This is the podcastfactory.com.